managers and maritime administrators. Having said that, as these past years of expansion in EMSA activities have shown, the agency is always available to increase its contribution in this area, should the European member states and institutions entrust it with more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. We now turn to Sophie Papanakonadu. I can never say these Greek names. So I just say Sophie from INEA for our presentation. Sophie. Plus we all know this Sophie, just Sophie, you know.
Sophia would be good as
Well.
So, good morning, everybody. This is another type of presentation, a bit more technical from the ones we had up to now. That were focusing quite a lot on policy. I'm going to present you what we have done up to now in INEA, with PGMO, of course, for the safety, human element, and traffic management. And let me start how and why we finance those areas. In the old TEN-T regulation, Article 13 foresaw that the project of common interest, first European networks, could include activities which have wider benefits, not linked to specific ports, such as traffic management. So there was a specific reference to traffic management already from the old TEN-T regulation guidelines, actually. There was no reference for human element. Human training was part of the Marco Polo program. However, even from the first reports of the European coordinator, Mr. De Oliveira, already in 2008 report, he had dedicated chapters to training, safety, and security. So he brought up the need for us, for motorways of the sea, to address also training besides safety and security. Now, the new legal base, which is Article 21 of the CEF, the regulation, and also which is the financing instrument for motorways of the sea, foresees that the projects of common interest for motorways of the sea may also include activities that are of wider benefit and not linked to specific ports, such as activities ensuring the optimization of processes, procedures, and human element, ICT platforms, and information systems, including traffic management and electronic reporting systems. So, under this scope, our work programs and our calls address those political priorities. More specifically, what we have done under safety, traffic management, and human element. Actually, we had financed up to now 4 projects. You may already know Mona Lisa and Mona Lisa 2, which were the pioneers of the project we have financed in motorways of the sea, addressing safety and traffic management. Those 2 projects were financed under the TEN-T program, and under the CEF program we have another project dedicated to surveys, hydrographic surveys, which is the FAMOS, and we have the project, the STM validation project, which is actually a continuation of Mona Lisa 2 project that we have been covering the cost through CEF. In total, the EU contribution is up to almost 57 million euros for actions that have a total investment of 123 million euros. More because I think that we are going to discuss a little bit further about Mona Lisa and Mona Lisa 2. I'm going only to be fast presenting the FAMOS Fraser project, which is the finalizing surveys for the Baltic motorways of the sea, which has actually as an objective to produce hydrographic surveys and charts for approximately 30,000 kilometers of that have been identified as important for shipping, to improve accurate GNSS positioning at sea, through gravimetry measurements, and of course to produce the improved data production capacity of hydrographic offices by streamlining the process workflow and decreasing the processing from hydrographic surveys to nautical products. We all know that for the Baltic Sea, because this is a project that takes place in the Baltic Sea, there is the Helcom Convention, according to which the members of the Helcom Convention are obliged to perform those hydrographic surveys to ensure safety at sea. Now, indeed, the policy context that we have for safety, it was also expressed in the white paper for transport in 2011, where it was highlighted that further enhancing the existing maritime information surveillance and exchange systems with the purpose of their better linking into a broader policy aimed to secure safe and efficient intermodal collections, allow for an integrated transport chain to facilitate the movement of persons and goods across the Union and beyond. So this is, again, the framework to which we operate. So actually, we would like to have vessels that are monitored for safety purpose, and that the idea that the future, we already touched upon digitalization, that the systems are connected and they all work in a harmonized way in order to facilitate not only safety but also maritime transport and traffic. So we are moving towards the next generation of Union Maritime Information Exchange System, which hopefully will lead to a safe and efficient maritime space without barriers. In this framework, something that we could also see in the long-term future is the Arctic route. And this has, the research that is being previous, I have this be connected with Lord Prescott's also presentation on environment. There is new research shows that in 2004, 2059, we'll have new shipping routes, and that will allow to cross Arctic. There is a lot of discussion currently in different fora, and but it is true that the estimations show that only 4 or 6 ships, which is not really a lot in terms of ice threatened, can in the next years cross the route. So a lot about the navigation standards in those routes and the reporting systems, the traffic services should be addressed also at that level. And of course, contingency planning and preparing standards need to be foreseen. This is what we have done in safety regarding projects promoting human element. I did not include in this list here the projects that have some components of training. These were only the projects, the 2 projects that they were dedicated actually to the promotion of human element. Human element is another type of infrastructure for maritime. I remember when we were first starting discussing about MoS, they were telling me that you should not consider training as soft measure. It's an infrastructure because it is that important that it should be seen as an infrastructure. So we have up to now, as I said, completed 2 actions, both of them financed under the 10T program, with a total budget of 8.1 million euros and EU contribution raising the 4 million euros. We will go, I think, a bit further about MoS, so maybe I will skip this slide because I think there are experts here to present in details the project. So what I would like to address, it has been addressed already, but we would like to see that we would like to have people who work in the field of the maritime sector, that they benefit from vocational training. LNG-related training is very relevant, and of course, training that is based on IMO regulatory framework. So whoever wants to come with ideas regarding training, it should come not from bottom up, actually. We wouldn't like to provide a training that is something that addresses only the needs in an office. We would like the people who work on the field to benefit from the training. So we want their needs to be identified. We could also consider the idea of training by clusters. So we can see a set of ports or a set of regions to come together if they have common needs, that they may not be the same needs in other areas. And of course, we consider it's very important that for TEMTI we have free access to this training, and this, the material is available, and there is a possibility for provision of remote training. And another thing which is again very important, because it's important for the people receiving the training, is their certification. I think this is from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. We now move to Irene Rosberg, who is the Copenhagen Business School, and we're looking at industrial stakeholders now. So we have Irene and Dov from Israel, but Irene, you're first.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for having me today here. It's a great honor to be here. Such a distinguished audience, I feel really very humbled. But I'm just going to put together, I've put together a couple of headings of what I'm doing, and we'll talk you through it. You know, during the past day and a bit earlier this morning, we have heard a lot about global maritime policy. We have heard about regularity activities, customs perspectives, global connectivity through ports. We have heard about port capacity enhancements, creating Nordic maritime hub, strategic locations and their impact on the shipping industry. But what we have not really heard much about is that people who are behind the scenes and making all these things happen. In other words, the human element, people who are sitting in the management positions and making decisions so that all this apparatus is going to be working. So I have a small, maybe I can just put my presentation on the screen, perhaps it's better than my face.
You see, this is human element.
All right, let me just carry on then.
And Murphy's Law.
Right. When you look at the shipping industry, we know that this is an industry which is very conservative. We have people who are coming and sitting in the management positions in our different shipping companies, different departments. They are mainly the former CEOs. They are either a master mariner or a chief engineer. With all due respect to this group of people who are the backbone of this industry, and without them, we will not have any shipping industry to start with, it is also necessary to know that the technical know-how that these people have and bring to the industry just takes them so far. And you really need to give them the necessary tools to stay competitive in such a fast-moving industry. They need to have the risk management know-how, they need to have the financial know-how, they need to have the investment analysis know-how. They actually need to read the market. They need to know which market are they operating on and how they can be successful in this market. Give you an example of the markets, tackling the issues which are in the market. Look at the commodity market today, for example. If you look at the commodity market, you see that the price of coal, iron, and the crude oil, they are all likely to remain depressed in the next few years. So these things are going to have an implications on the decisions that we are making in the shipping industry. And look at for example, look at the rate of dollar. As you can see, as a result of the dollar going up during the past year, the emerging market, which typically maintained a very competitive exchange rate with respect to the dollar, has been hit very hard. And as a result, the spending has really reduced. When you look at the trends in this market, look at China, for example. China had a growth rate of 7.4 in 2014. It went down to 7 in 2015, and it's 6.3 in 2016. So this is quite a hit for the shipping market, and especially on the dry bulk. So if you are managing the shipping industry and you are active in all these different segments, these are the areas that you need to be having the knowledge about. We go further, for example, we look at the demographic shifts. When you look at the Asia, Latin America, Africa, you see that the middle class is disappearing in the United States of America, but actually is growing in these areas. As a result, these people are going to have a better purchase power. They are going to be they are going to be customers for the commodities and finished goods. That means bigger container ships to be going to these areas. And a bigger container ship, that means better infrastructure in the ports and IT and the rest of it. So that means creating growth in these areas. When you look at the specialized goods, for example, specialized ships, specialized vessels, until a few years ago, and until recently, even today, we think that anything which is going to be moved has to be moved on a container. But we have seen that gradually and slowly but surely, the industry is now going back again to specialized vessels. We are looking at the product tankers are going to be increasing in value. We are looking at the offshore windmills, for example. We have special vessels who are carrying the towers, the blades, the nacelles. These are actually specially only you cannot put that in a container. So we see that is going to be happening. And then, of course, there are other trends that the green shipping is also going to provide with a lot of innovation in this industry. And also look at the consolidation and alliances in the shipping industry. As late as 3 days ago, we saw that with 6 container carriers, they just consolidated. That was the last of the consolidation we saw. So therefore, my idea is that we need really to provide people who are running this industry with the tools to read this market, to see how the market behaves. This is a very cyclical market, and therefore we need to understand all these things to have a better, be a better decision maker. I agree, we need a lot of training in LNG. But the shipping is so interconnected. Today is not enough if you are an expert in one little niche of this market. In order to understand the market, in order to stay competitive, you really need to have a holistic view of what is happening in this market. So we have programs in the market. We are going to offer some programs on the market. We are going to offer some programs on the strategy, where we are going to aim at giving participants insight into the strategic options in various shipping markets. And that is one of the areas that we are going to look at. We are also going to look at the supply chain management. So we have the market, we have the strategy, and we have the supply chain management. We are going to have the courses on integrating the maritime industry into the global logistic chain. In other words, we are going to look at to provide the detailed understanding of the use of maritime transport as an element of the full supply chain. We look at the advantages and disadvantages of this mode. We also look at the basis upon which we have to analyze and decide on the feasibility of using the maritime transport as a part of the supply chain or as an alternative to the other modes which are already viable. And then, of course, there are courses to understand the typical problems occurring in the logistical chain. You know, today the freight rates have gone down so much that it's not possible to really reduce these freight rates any longer. So what the shipping industry is looking at combining the transport, the maritime, the shipping part of this chain into the logistical chain and see where can we save money. And the supply chain is actually one of the areas that the shipping industry still are thinking that there are possibilities to save money. And then, of course, we have challenges, like, for example, cybersecurity. The cybersecurity has been pointed out a few times now, but cybersecurity is, you know, when you look at the cybersecurity, I mean, the security altogether in the shipping industry is, of course, of utmost importance. I'm not talking about the safety, that is not my part of the work, but I'm talking about the security. Now, we have seen that the decreasing acts of the piracy in the Somalian coast, and this is a positive news. But the cybersecurity, there is a significant weakness in the cyber, resisting the cyber, to working towards the cybersecurity. You know, you have a vessel where there is a navigation, the propulsion systems, the cargo handling, the container tracking system, ports on both on board and on the ship, the shipyard inventories. These are all controlled by softwares, and that is, of course, fundamental because you want to have a smooth running operations. Now, imagine that there are very skillful hackers who can hit all these systems. Imagine, we were talking about the Panama Canal and how important the Panama Canal is to Liverpool. Now, Liverpool is one of the areas where the Panama Canal plays such a big role. But Panama Canal is a lifeline of the shipping industry. Suppose a vessel transiting Panama Canal would be attacked. A blockage in the Panama Canal is going to have a devastating consequences for the shipping industry. And of course, that is an area where we are going to offer a course for the people in the management positions to see how we are going to do. We are looking at the regulations, standard regulations, because the national regulations all take you so far. You need to have some standard regulations, harmonized regulations, which is going to practice all over the world. Because cybersecurity is really very scary. But of course, having said all these things, we also have to think that we need to look at the soft skills of the people who are running this industry. I mean, we are looking at training people in the management position in the shipping industry. They have to be able to develop the ability which requires to lead effectively at the executive level. They have to become more agile leaders and improve performance during the change and uncertainty, which is this industry is always dealing with. Then, of course, we have another area where we have skillful workforce who finds other attractive positions, other places, and they leave the industry. We should be the industry of choice. We have to learn, our managers, our leaders have to learn how to attract, develop, and retain the talent we have. And of course, that is what we are going to be looking at. Then I finally want to talk about what this industry needs to tackle when it comes to modernizing itself. I think the shipping industry has always been looked at as a very conservative, old-fashioned industry. We have to modernize this industry. This industry will only be modernized if we can really promote the leadership aspect of it, the human element of it, but also the gender diversity of it. You are looking at an industry where the participation of women in this industry is really very, very low. It's embarrassing to see the number of women sitting in high-level positions in this industry. And by that, I do mean, with all due respect to the Norwegian colleagues who are here, Norway recently made a regulation that we need to have 40% women in the whatever government entities. I'm not talking about this. I'm not talking about quotas. I'm talking about giving possibility to women who are talented, who are motivated, who are educated, and can really lead the industry at some in some levels. We have always looked at the women as being a woman sometimes has been an insult in this industry. We have to change that mindset. We have to take advantage of half of the population, half of the talent that we have, and make sure that bring them on board and modernize this industry. I'm running an executive MBA in shipping and logistics at the Copenhagen Business School. The program came about in 2001. The aim was that we need to have more management skills for the shipping industry, and it was fantastic. It was very well received by the industry, very much supported by the industry. And today is the best, the largest, the most international, the most senior, the most executive program at the Copenhagen Business School. Copenhagen Business School is going to be 100 years next year. And the executive MBA in shipping and logistics that I run, the current class has attracted 48 students in an executive MBA. For those of you who know about MBAs, you realize that I myself evaluate different business schools all over the world. One of the areas that the business schools are suffering is attracting the minimum required number, which is 20. Now, to have 48 people, which, by the way, is the maximum capacity we can take at the business school in Copenhagen, is quite a fantastic achievement. And I'm really very proud of it. I'm sorry, I cannot be very modest when I'm so good. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic feeling to see. Why is it so wonderful? It's because the industry is actually recognizing the need of training the management level of people in the modern era. But what is disappointing is that of these 48 people, we only have 4 women, and that is quite disappointing. So my point to you, because I consider myself being successful in the work that I do, but I would have not have been here if it had not been for the support and encouragement of my male colleagues. So invest a little bit on your female colleagues because they are worth it. And I'm not saying that bring them in as a, because if you bring in women as a quota thing, either they would be marginalized or they turn into some sort of a proxy members of the whatever entity you have. They end up arranging your Christmas dinner and changing the curtains in the staff room, while they actually have the capability to run the strategy and the finance committee. So with that, I'd like to say thank you very much, and thank you very much again for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Irene. No, Doug, you've got to follow that. Dov Gerber is MD International and he's from Israel, and he will explain to you what he does. But we often stress that shipping is international beyond the shores of the European Union, and although Israel is not far from the shores of the European Union, it's good to have you here to explain those.
Can I just make a comment while he's looking for this?
Right, well,
I'll just entertain you while we are looking to avoid another human element problem, so he's looking for his presentation. Now, I would just like to stress how unique in the framework of the EU this initiative of Motors of the Sea is, because I think that for the first time we have a forum which is totally dedicated to issues that were totally neglected in terms of study, like safety. This is already, Lord John President already stated it, traffic management and the human element. And the good thing about it is that we are looking into or providing a platform so that every stakeholder can express themselves and their needs in the different levels of training, be it certification, something about the STCW, follow up in terms of STCW, but we are going beyond that, and we are providing a forum for gender balance, for new management capabilities, for operating with drones, for cybersecurity. We are even having David already setting up an agenda for short, medium, and long term. I think that long term is with NASA, but we are dealing with it. So this platform is yours. We have just created it, and well, hopefully instill the flexibility to accept what you need, but use us to promote and to provide the sector with what it needs in terms of safety and human element. And probably we may help us avoid some traffic management induced accidents that we have seen in the recent years. And when passenger vessels are now carrying, after Lord John Prescott time, are now carrying 8,000 persons.
Yeah.
This is starting to be extremely worrying. When we have in La Valletta 4 vessels, even not 8,000, 6,000, that's 24,000 souls in La Valletta. We hope that they still are embodied and not just souls. But and that's what we will try and do for it. And I hope that we will have the chance of during the Maltese presidency. And I'm trying very hard to convince Brian that he should support a proposal from your side to host the Motors of the Sea conference in Malta during the presidency, because I think that your agenda is very much the agenda for Motors of the Sea. Are you ready?
Yes.
Oh,
Thank you, Jose.
then shoot them off.
Brian, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting me to here, and it is a big honor and pleasure. I regard my part here today as actually a wake-up call. All of you knows precisely what is going on in Europe lately, and if we would like to have normal and healthy life, we should be prepared, learn and understand what is going on. And it is no question that ports are the most important issue today, and this is what I'm going to show and talk to you about, to present to you. First, why Israel? Israel is a costly country. All the Israeli strategic facilities are located on the coast. Israel has no ground transport ways to get out the country. The only ways to get out the country is or by the sea or by the air. And as you know, and we don't like it, but that's our life, all the terrorist groups are nearby our country, and the organization are all around us. Ports are very crucial and strategic gateways from Israel, and in real life and daily terror threat we're having every day. Only a few years ago we have attack in the port of Ashdod by 2 terrorists that was hidden in containers. They actually built a double wall in the containers, and when the containers got into the port, they opened the container, they got outside, and there was some shooting and killing, and it was a real thing there. And since then, whenever in the port they are checking containers and they open the containers, they're not only checking if the container is empty, they're also checking by electronic measure if the length of the container is what it should be, because the way that they built these double walls was a way of getting in, and that was something that, you know, as an example of what things you have to take care of. White ports. Basically, we're speaking about many ports in Europe, and it's constructed to be widely open and accessible by land and by sea. The infrastructures are interland with neighborhood cities, usually hazards storage facilities, and all the what we call the raw material is being established and be stored in the port area. And there are today, as Jose just mentioned, stream of thousands of people, workers, passengers, and seamen going in and out of the ports every day. Why containers? I just gave you an example of what containers can be. And there are about 17 million containers making 200 million trips a year in Europe. And only 5% of them are being inspected on a worldwide rate, because it's taking time, because it's creating congestion, and because it's can be a bottlenecks, and it's not something that ports like to do. There are difficulty in controlling and inspecting the contents of those containers, and there is no question that one of the easiest way of delivery weapons or hide weapons can be in those containers. Ships are it can be a weapon itself. If somebody wants to take the ship and use it as a way of delivering weapon, or creating, or putting some bombs in it, it is quite easy to do. And it can be used for transport for terrorists by themselves. And there are a lot of ways that they can imagine, and other people can imagine how ships can be used for this purpose. What is actually required from us? I can see 3 circles which are today we have to talk about, or to see how we're taking care of them. One is on the very wide circle. It's to have a well-planned program and well-understood regulation on the EU level. The other one is going into the port level, and each port should have some kind of tailor-made systems, high-tech or managing system that can be a tool for managing or for controlling this kind of activities that we want to prevent. And the most important thing is to have the right training program for senior staff and for each and every port. Not only senior staff, all the management levels should have some kind of a training and some kind of understanding how to deal and what to do in the case of emergency, in the case of it can be a disaster of any kind.